You might think that one of the most desirable cars on the Australian new car market could be a brand new Aston Martin or Ferrari, but I've been able to get my hands on the one thing everybody wants. It's a Toyota RAV4, specifically a hybrid powered Toyota RAV4. These babies are in hot demand throughout the country, with wait times extending beyond 12 months in some cases. Even used examples are hard to come by, with some sellers pricing theirs at above retail pricing.
The type of situation that might push some new car shoppers to consider the alternatives. That's where this Haval H6 Hybrid comes in. Now, while the Haval brand is not as established in Australia as Toyota, Haval's playing the smart game. They are loading this car with all the features and equipment they can and pricing it under the competition. So the question then becomes, how does the H6 Hybrid stack up against an established player like the Toyota RAV4? That is what we are going to find out today. So Tom, take us through the RAV4.
To keep the range current, Toyota has given the RAV4 some update for the 2022 model year. This subtly facelifted car here is the new XSE variant, which adds a host of black bits to a proven design. Where the Haval over there goes for a more classy, fancy look with its chrome detailing, this car here is a bit more sinister in its appearance. It gets black wheels, black mirror caps, a black roof, black running boards along the side here, and black wheel guards. It's a mid-tier model grade which slots neatly between the GXL and Cruiser specifications and is only available with Toyota's hybrid powertrain, a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine paired with a battery. Combined output is 160 kilowatts an hour car, which is sent to the front wheels in this specification. In terms of kit, the XSE gets equipment including a power-operated boot release, 18-inch gloss black alloy wheels, electric driver's seat, ambient cabin lighting and a 7-inch digital instrument cluster in front of the driver.
The interior gets a dark theme highlighted by a pair of Softex insert leather seats, which are heated. They provide a good amount of support around the sides and the materials used do feel pretty premium to the touch. There is also a good amount of adjustability between the seats and the steering wheel to get in that ideal driving position.
Elsewhere, you've got an 8-inch colour touchscreen which displays the car's infotainment system. It has its own sat-nav embedded within the system, though users can connect up their own smartphone mirroring system if preferred.
The infotainment system alone is very easy to use, with big blocky icons on screen and handy shortcuts alongside to skip to certain functions. In fact, instrumentation throughout the RAV4 scores a mention because it's really nice to use and all the buttons and dials are ergonomically placed.
Storage-wise, the RAV4 contains a series of spots to store your items, such as a shelf below the dash, which includes a wireless phone charger, and 2 large cup holders in the center console. It also has big door cards for large bottles.
In the back seat, there's a great amount of space. The RAV4 has grown in dimension incrementally to accommodate a huge amount of headroom, great knee room, and there's good space for your feet as well. Materials used throughout the car are nice, it doesn't really feel cheap at all, and build quality feels like it'll last. In terms of amenities, there are air vents back here, 2 USB ports, a singular map pocket, and these seats do recline. The RAV4 XSE has an electrically operated boot, which paves way to a huge space. There's a total of 580 litres back there in 5-seat guys. You can see how the wheel wells don't really cut into the boot space there, and it's a low loading floor. Exactly what you want to cram in as much gear as possible. On the negatives, this boot does take an age to load and beeps incessantly. Very annoying.
So there you have it, that's the Toyota RAV4. Now let's get familiar with the Haval H6. There are 3 variants in the range, Premium, Luxe and Ultra, priced from $32,990 up to $40,990. This hybrid is a new arrival, priced $5,000 above the Ultra on which it's based, which is actually $1,000 more than the price Haval originally released back in February. The H6 Hybrid has all the creature comforts of the top spec H6 Ultra, but also has a hybrid powertrain, and that's where the extra $5,000 went. So instead of a turbocharged 2 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine, the hybrid has a 1.5 litre turbo petrol unit. In a classic case of having your cake and eating it too, Haval claims the H6 not only increases performance, but reduces fuel consumption. They're talking 179 kilowatts from the combined motors instead of 150 from the 2 litre, and they're also claiming that fuel consumption drops from 8.3 litres to 5.2, but we will test that as we go today. More specifically on the 2 powertrains, the electric motor produces 130 kilowatts and 300 newton meters, the petrol engine 110 kilowatts and 230 newton meters. Now you can't add those two together, because if you did, you'd end up with a 530 Newton metre front drive car, which is just insane. I've never heard of such a powerful beast. It would be a riot to drive. But the way it works is, as the petrol engine builds its torque, the electric motor ramps off. How that works in reality, we'll find out today. The 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine produces 110 kilowatts of power and 230 Newton meters of torque. The electric motor delivers 130 kilowatts and 300 Newton meters. The more relevant question is, how well do these two power units move this car? And to answer that, we need to go for a test drive. Now let me run you through the differences for the hybrid. Straight away you can see it gets an all new front fascia. Some people like it. I'm not sure the transition from the opening here across to here quite works, but maybe that's just me. That's pretty much it for the front. Let me take you down the side. The differences here are superficial. We get a lovely chrome bit there and a chrome bit there. Functionality, 0. Satisfaction, up to you. But the back is where, for me, the real touches are. I love these rocket booster high mounted stoplights. I'd like to see them on all H6s. And then last but not least, the obligatory hybrid badge. So the interior on this hybrid model is exactly what you would get on the petrol powered Ultra Spec. So we've got leather throughout, we've got electrically adjustable seats, heated of course, just like the steering wheel. We've got a wireless phone charger here. We've got panoramic sunroof and a 12.3-inch central touchscreen, which has all of your smartphone mirroring and all of your radio controls and climate control. But as for radio, you don't get digital radio, and weirdly, you don't get satellite navigation. I guess Haval expects you to have it on your phone, and hey, Google Maps are always up to date, right? Apart from that, the rest of the cabin is a very nice place to be. The only letdowns for me are minor. These two touchscreens just don't feel as integrated as they could, and this is really picky, but this steering wheel boss to me just looks a bit truck-like. But as for how it drives, that is what we're going to find out. Now the back seats are anything but the cheap seats in the Haval. We've got air vents down here, we've got a couple more USB ports to complement the two up the front. We've also got a central armrest with a couple of cup holders, and we get to enjoy this massive panoramic sunroof. And how about the space? I tell you, I am more than comfortable in here, and I reckon even all 6'4" of Tommy Longshanks would fit without a problem. Now when it comes to hybrids, the boot can sometimes be a compromise because you've got to package a battery pack in there. Not so with the Haval. Just like its petrol brethren, we've got 600 litres of space in here, and it expands to 1450 litres if you split fold both back seats. The one area where you do miss out is the spare tyre. There isn't one. All you've got here is a compressor and some tyre goo.
Now, considering this vehicle is a hybrid, one of the first things you'll notice is how smoothly it comes on and off electric power. You barely even notice the step change between the two mediums, which makes the driving experience all the more sublime. Adding to that ease of transition is a continuously variable transmission which reacts well to changing speeds. It's not overly drony, which is a complaint sometimes levelled at CVTs. This two-wheel drive version's 160 kilowatts are put down to the ground very effectively, with foot-down throttle inputs resulting in swift acceleration and convincing overtakes. It's more than enough power for around-town touring and further driving alike. It might not be as comfortable on the road as key rivals such as the Hyundai Tucson or Kia Sportage, but it is a smooth rider. No wonder Toyota gets so much business from rideshare operators. What is important for buyers is a saving in fuel cost. Real-world efficiency in the 5 litres per 100 kilometre range is achievable and realistic. I'd be impressed if the Haval H6 Hybrid can get a fuel figure that low.
The Haval, like the RAV4 and all other non-plug-in hybrids, captures energy usually lost when braking or slowing down, and it redeploys that energy when you need to accelerate. The Haval has 4 driving modes: EV, Series, Parallel and Regen. EV acts like a pure electric vehicle, allowing you to drive for a limited amount of kilometres without consuming any petrol. Series and Parallel combine the petrol and electric motors in ways to get the best efficiency or performance. And Regen, that one is all about recharging the battery pack while driving. So, what does this car drive like? Let's find out. Now, it doesn't take long behind the wheel to realise that Haval's done a pretty good job with this car. They've got the fundamentals right. The driving position is quite good. I've got reach and tilt adjust on the steering wheel, so I can get the position that makes me happy. I've got good all-round visibility, aided by cameras in pretty much all directions. But there are a few idiosyncrasies, a few areas where they could just do a little bit better. I'm picking up a little bit of wind noise off the A pillar, for example. This transmission dial down here, it's very hard to see what it's saying when the sunlight's shining on it. You've got to kind of shield it with your hand to figure out if you're in drive or reverse. It's also slow to react if you're doing a 3-point turn. The drivetrain though, which, let's be honest, that's the heart of the hybrid's proposition, is good. It's got plenty of that sort of power and urge you want in everyday driving. It's quite seamless. It transitions nicely between battery power and engine power. It just isn't returning the kind of economy I was hoping for. Now, if you're familiar with the 2-litre turbocharged Haval H6, we averaged around 10 litres per 100 around town. This I would have expected to be close to 5, given that that's where the RAV4 sits. But instead, I'm seeing high 6s to low 7s. And that's okay, that's definitely improvement. No one's going to knock 30% improvement back, but it's not competitive with the other cars that are in this market segment. Another area where I'm really struggling with this car is interacting with the infotainment system. Again, I think it's some of those idiosyncrasies that I'm talking about. Functions are in weird places within the menus and don't work as intuitively as you would expect getting into the RAV4 or a Mitsubishi Outlander or pretty much any other car in this category. It takes a bit of getting used to, and even then, sometimes you've got to rewire your brain so you can figure out where something might be hiding. The only other thing I'd criticise in this car, and I've got to say right now I'm being pretty picky. As I said, overall it's a very good offering, but it just stops short of being compelling because Haval hasn't quite considered those nice to haves that just put the shine on ownership. And here I'm talking about the wing mirrors. They're not convex wing mirrors, so they limit your rearward visibility. It can be sometimes hard on some of Melbourne's wider streets to see that you've got a car in the lane beside you. But I suppose that's where blind spot monitoring comes in, and that's where Haval needs to be commended, because the active safety offering on the H6 Ultra is exemplary. It is equal to the class best, and that makes me very happy. I love it when car companies make sure that safety is standard, not just for those who can afford to pay more. One more thing before we pull up and I have a bit of a chat with Tom about which car's going to win. One more area that Haval could probably do a bit more work is in the ride. Now what I mean by that is that when things get rough, the Haval doesn't have the chops to cut out the chops. Do you understand what I'm saying here? It's fantastically smooth when there's no problems with the road underneath, but when things get a bit choppy, the suspension doesn't have the refinement to soak up those bumps. It's just a bit rough around the edges, and that, I suppose, is an area of difference between cars that have been built for years, like the RAV4, and a car that's new to Australia, like the Haval H6. Okay, Tom, so we've driven these cars for a bit now. Now we need to figure out a winner. Why don't I throw Haval's strengths at you and you try and beat me, all right?
Sounds good to me.
So first up, 7-year warranty.
Toyota gets 5 years, but it does get a wider dealer network.
Yeah, Toyota reliability, blah, blah, blah,
And
blah,
in Australia.
Blah. Okay, all right. $45,990 drive away. That's a lot of car for the money.
Toyota is $2,000 dearer, but does your car come with satellite navigation?
No.
What about digital radio?
No, you don't need digital radio. Forget that. Roomy inside. This is a big car inside.
Yes, but for a mid-size SUV, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, okay, I suppose there's a certain amount of room that's okay, and after that it's just
Excess
icing
room,
on top.
yes.
Okay, cool. Last one. Performance. These are hybrids, right? So it's all about how they drive and how much fuel they save. The standard petrol version is 10 litres per 100 in real world. This one's doing 6.7.
That's doing 5.3. Exactly what you want in a hybrid. Fuel efficiency.
Okay, I lose. I'm getting that sense. The Haval is a very good car and it lands a lot of punches.
But none of them are knockout blows.
So there you have it. The Toyota RAV4 is still the king of the hybrids in the mid-size SUV segment. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button so our boss knows we've done a good job. Make sure you also subscribe so that when we drop new videos, you get notified. And if you want to read Tom and my comparison of this, go to Drive.com.au.